In the field of ufology, it doesn't really get much better than this. You wait for times when somebody out there comes across something a once in a lifetime. Well, that just happened to us. In the past 12 hours, I received an email via my Facebook from a lady named Brenda. Apparently, she came across some documents that got her interest and she thought the Third Phase Moon team should take a closer look at them. And as we're looking at some of these images, which reveal possible underground bases, tunnel systems all across America, it's baffling to find out after all these years, some of these maps are maybe being seen for the first time to the world. After looking at the maps a little closer and some of the diagrams, you notice some of the statements, and it definitely captures the mind, whether we're alone or not. Apparently, the United States Marine Base, known as 29 Palms, could be a diagnostic facility for an alien research operation. The documents appear to be legit. They seem to be approximately 40 to 50 years old. We're looking at it and they seem authentic. The implications behind these maps could reveal a whole underground labyrinth, subterranean tunnels that lead all across the United States. But if you look closer on one of these images, it reveals a base right off the coast of Malibu. Now, this is where it gets strange. The breaking news of the Malibu structure anomaly underneath the Pacific Ocean came out approximately 10 years ago. I think Jimmy Church was the one that broke it to the world, and Third Phase Moon followed it up, and millions noticed the anomaly after we shared the Google Map coordinates.
Yeah, this is really interesting. When we first made the discovery of the Malibu base back in 2014, I thought immediately that there was too many direct connections to Edwards Air Force Base and China Lake, which was right over the hills from Malibu. And if this map is authentic, it confirms everything that we had thought back then with Catalina Island, the Malibu base, reaching up to Edwards Air Force Base and China Lake here, with Vandenberg out to the west with the direct connection over to 29 Palms, and Chocolate Mountain, and then up, of course, to Area 51 and the Tonopah Test Range. Everything makes sense here. It's laid out correctly, and there's even a connection going up to Mount Shasta, which I also find very interesting, and then a direct line out to Dulce, New Mexico, and then, of course, up into Colorado. This is a very interesting map. Amazing discovery.
Another amazing find, guys. I'm really glad that we have viewers that are willing to send stuff like this to us. It's amazing. It really makes this job worth it. And I want to talk about the first map that we see here. It says military view of California. I'm saying this, I'm gonna say this is a military flight chart of a portion of California, and these thick lines, I think, are the tunnel systems leading to all the different bases. And it's basically a topographic map. So, and the fact it says underground base in multiple locations kind of gives it away. But this is really, this is a good find. This is a good find.
Definitely very astounding images. And you know, it's really treasures like these that are found in people's homes, trailers, garages, offices, basements, etc., that add more pieces to the puzzle. Now, let me say this first of all. There have been lots of stories about DUMBs been going around for decades. DUMBs, D-U-M-B, as in deep underground military bunkers. Also, along with deep underground military bunkers, has the theories been going around that extraterrestrials are also residing down there, possibly doing research, sometimes along with humans. Regardless, theories have been going around globally. Now, the person who drew this, I have to say, is not your average Joe Schmo who saw a few documentaries and decided, okay, let's draw an elaborate, underground base. I think if someone's imagination was to go there, they probably would have put in some less detailed stuff as far as the technical abilities about how to build this, as opposed to more fantastic stuff. Now, the first document here is 29 Palms, right here in Southern California, purportedly linked to Area 51 via underground tunnels. So the fact that this first document touches on an underground extraterrestrial research facility right here in Southern California is not surprising to me. What is surprising to me is the level of detail in this drawing.
So I'm reviewing the documents that were recently submitted to Third Phase of Moon via a civilian who inadvertently had found them in one way, shape, or form. As a total, looking at all of these collectively, I think there may be something in the way of validation here, and we will definitely get to the bottom of it to the best of our ability. Looking at the first document, bases in the southwestern U.S., we have a hand-drawn map which depicts what they are saying are military bases all throughout southwestern U.S. And you're also provided with a key that shows these simple illustrations and what they represent, along with some text on the bottom in these paragraphs, which essentially dictate a story wherein a woman was married to a man who disappeared, and she had initially said he died, but then retracted that and said that, in her words, he was drafted onto Mars. So that's interesting, but I don't see anything else in the way of that story or text in any of the other documents that we have here. Moving forward, most of these documents I think are representations of themselves. There's a bit of reiteration, but expressed in different detail. So the one I'm looking at now is the military view of California. And again, we have a heavy hand when it comes to the print. There's lots of detail in the way of the geography. And we're seeing these long stretches of tunnels that connect these enormous underground complexes together. Now, I think we all had our suspicions that these were interconnected, but now we're seeing on the maps that that is exactly the case. That being said, moving on to 29 Palms facility. Now, this is an outline or a blueprint in one way, shape, or form of the facility, and again, we're seeing many of these really thick underground tunnels that do connect to other places. I think it's really interesting that we have a detailed map underneath of this facility wherein it's showing the route of the troops and what time that they're there moving forward, and also the main entrance to the facility. Again, these are documents that, you know, you'd be very hard pressed to find anywhere else but the way that we're finding them right now. The last one I'll comment on, and before I do that, I just wanted to bring up something interesting in the way of the validity here. A lot of what we're seeing in the way of the illustration, it definitely looks hand-drawn. But the print itself, and we find two dates, 1978, 1974, I think it was, and maybe 90, but we're not 100% sure on that exactly. You're seeing some of the print that's offset, which would be reminiscent of the use of typewriters or something like that. So I find that interesting, and of course the printing methods back then were not as polished as they are today, and so you're seeing some ink splattering coming from the roller, indicating that, again, these may be some actual old prints. So the last one I'm looking at is, again, a reiteration of the first map with the southwestern United States, but it is a bit more naked without the borderline states that are around there, and we're still seeing this interconnection, this interweaving spider web of military bases that again are all interconnected. I also find it fascinating that some of them are shown to be offshore. So while we've all had our suspicions about military bases underground, which has been founded to some degree, we always had suspicion, at least conjecture in certain ways, about the existence of these being underwater.
Wow, so what we're looking at here is really incredible, because basically what this does is validate what many insiders have come forward with in the disclosure community for about the past 20 years. So we've had insiders coming forward saying that there are basically these underground bases that ETs supposedly work with our government in all around the country. So what we're looking at here is a base that is in 29 Palms. So obviously the first facilities that come to mind are S4, Groom Lake, Dulce, New Mexico. Tons of insiders have come forward with information on that. And you know, with Dulce, New Mexico especially, many insiders have said that our government has been working with ET races in this facility. So that makes me wonder, all these facilities are interconnected. Are they run by ETs? Are they run strictly by our government? ETs are coming here to work with them? Is it like a joint thing? You know, I really feel like this could have a lot to do with the inner Earth ETs, that, you know, they're not necessarily aliens from other planets, but they're beings that have been living here for probably longer than the human race.
Sometimes when we receive information like this, it needs to be shared. We just got this information 12 hours ago, and now we're breaking it to you right here at Third Phase. You know what's happening here? 29 Palms, the largest marine military base in the world. Why wouldn't that be a research facility? It's very unique when we're looking at the text. It says United States Alien Research Diagnostic Facility. It just breaks it down right there. What's really happening at 29 Palms? I believe there's underground bases there that go down maybe a mile to maybe 3 or 4 miles. They have these elaborate tunnels that were built probably in the early 40s and 50s during kind of the post-war, and they're just kind of trying to figure out how we're going to protect our civilians in case of a nuclear attack. Now I'm thinking they're using these underground bases that they've created for such a long time, and why not use this as a alien underground base facility? And we've been hearing reports of UFOs off the coast of Malibu, and this discovery that was found underneath the water about 1,500 feet deep, this massive cathedral base. It's an amazing capture. And now Google Earth has actually scrubbed the image. We actually can't get a clear look at what we discovered about 10 years ago. So the evidence is trying to be scrubbed away by Google, and who else is trying to cover this up? I'm glad that Brenda broke this down to us right here at Third Phase. And we have the panel going over their diagnostic details on what we're looking at here. And I think it's something special. It's been recorded throughout the United States for decades of strange sounds coming from the earth, and it really can't be explained. Could there be heavy machinery, some sort of like Manhattan Project that's happening under the earth of the United States in development, some sort of like weapon or technology that we just haven't seen yet? I believe so.
I spoke with Brenda just a little earlier. She gave me her story and how she came across these papers. Brenda, thanks for joining us today. You reached out to me just a couple days ago in regards to this information you came across, this paperwork, these maps, these old pages. Let's just start it off. How did you come across this paperwork, these documents?
Well, actually, we have a travel trailer in our backyard, and it's been sitting back there since we've gotten the property from my mother-in-law, and we've been cleaning it out. We got into this under storage compartment that's underneath the bed, like you can move the bed up like a Murphy bed kind of thing, and tucked away in the corner was all of those underneath, like pretty much the trailer. And I pulled them out and I was like, oh, this is just regular paper, whatever. And then my friend looks at it and she goes, no. You need to come here and look at this. You need to see what I'm looking at. And I go, what is it? What could it possibly be? And as soon as I laid eyes on it, I started to shake because I could not believe what I was reading. I'm like, this has got to be some kind of like, you know, it's not real. And then I'm looking at it and I'm going, but this is just so, it's weird. It gave me the weirdest feeling, and I didn't know what to do, but thought of you guys and knew that you guys would know what to do with it.
Well, that's incredible because we're looking at the documents. We're going to be going over it with our panel in this episode, but I want to ask you, do you know who the previous owner of this trailer was? Anything like that?
Yes and no. I know that my mother-in-law bought it from a woman who used it as, because her husband was a truck driver, and she used to follow him cross-country with this trailer. All I know about him was that he was in the military of some kind, and that he was a truck driver. That's all we know.
So right now we received the high-res pictures and we're looking over them very closely, and they seem very dated. How old do you think these documents are, in your opinion? Is it fragile?
I mean, I'm 34, so I would have to say they're just as old as me, if not older, because the way the paper is, it's not like regular white paper. It's aged. It's got like a coffee hue to it. It's weird. It's very, very fragile, and I didn't even want to like open them and like mess with them too much because they could fall apart. So, yeah.
So when you're reading some of the documents, one of the documents reads the United States Alien Research. What does it say? It's like, what did you think when you
It's
started?
the United States Alien Research Facility, or what is it? Slash research and diagnostics facility.
So what were you thinking when you read this for the first time?
I'm still feeling the way I was when I first saw them. It was like, no, but yes, because I totally believe, I'm totally a Skywatcher. I'm into this, but I couldn't believe that the proof was right there in my face. That yes, and then now all of this other stuff that's coming out and stuff like that, it made it even that much more like incredible to me.
You know, it's very interesting. Again, it seems very authentic. Would maybe in the future, people might be skeptical of this whole thing, thinking that this is a hoax. You made up this paperwork or something like this. In the future, if we want to do a follow-up, do you think we could, maybe get on location, videotape these documents, maybe put it under analysis to see how old this paperwork is, the ink it came from?
I was going to ask you guys if there was a way that we could do that, honestly, because I want this to be as real as it is to me right now, to everybody. I want everybody to have the same aha moment that I'm having and still having. So, yeah.
Brenda, appreciate you joining us on this special episode, and definitely we'll be going over the material that you just sent us via the panel. Brenda, be safe over there. We'll be keeping in touch.
All right. Thank you so much, guys.
It's times like this when the public reacts. They have a place, they have a forum to share the information, and that's what we're doing right now, sharing these documents. What could they possibly mean? Something's going on underneath the earth itself in America. And some people feel the rattle and roll. They don't know where these booms, these rumblings from underneath the ground. Sometimes there's seismic activity without any kind of seismic readings. Could these subterranean tunnels that interconnect all over the United States be some kind of the reasons, the explanations behind the rumblings that people feel all across America? I got a feeling these documents need to be authenticated, just like Brenda says. That's what we're going to try and do.
She's super genuine. She's not trying to mislead anybody. She just wants to get to the truth on what's really happening. She said while she is looking at these documents, she could feel kind of her hair rise on the back of her neck. And while she is explaining the story, it's making the hair rise off my arm. This is incredible stuff. Could this be that smoking gun document that really reveals that there's a cover-up, that they are underground bases doing a research on alien reverse technology? And I think it's written in plain sight on these documents. So get ready, everybody. This could be it.
So when you look at the first map, at least my map here that shows the southwest region of the United States, there's a little bit of, I guess, the story or the narrative behind this person's involvement in this thing. I don't know, but at the bottom it talks about how his father worked with disc-shaped craft, and he met a woman who he tried to impress by telling her that he worked in the Pentagon and whatnot. And she said, oh yeah, well, I also worked in the Pentagon behind the green door. And I guess they shared information back and forth, but they were talking about how this railroad could be built underground, and it would be very expensive. Not a railroad, a tunnel system, like a rail system with magnetic propulsion, I guess. You know how it would just hover above the rails. And the thing was, it also says in here, they were talking about how the cost would be unimaginable. It would be unfeasible to get these monies to build a tunnel from New York to Los Angeles. But there was a machine that he said that I think they had or could make, and it's called a subterrane, where it heats up the rock. I don't know what it would look like, but it's round. It would go into the ground, melt the rock, and then cool it off as it passes by, and you would wind up with this tunnel that was pristine and solid, and the walls would be like smooth but hard. Yeah, it's a pretty unbelievable thing. It also goes on to say how to run this machine, this tunnel maker, it would use nuclear power. Whether it would be nuclear power that we have today or whatever, it actually says we could use nuclear power, but it doesn't really say how. So it would be real interesting to see how this thing, if it is at all a real thing called the subterrene. I think it's real. I think it's underground. I think this is a lot of the strange booms we hear, the noises we hear. They're boring under the ground.
You can tell that this was done with somebody with precision, like an architect or a draftsman. You can tell from the way they write the names of the bases. It's very block letters, like you would do in graph paper, which a lot of architects and draftsmen use, and that's just it's their standard format of font, and so you can tell it was done with some precision. Now, did they have a map underneath it that overlaid to kind of help them with this? I don't know, because this looks very old. It doesn't look like tracing paper to me, but a lot of these images seem to have been copied with a rolling printer machine. So, because the papers are a little bit larger than what we normally see, like legal documents or military documents back in the day. So this is a beautiful image. I love it. I'm into circles and lines myself, connecting the dots. This is a great find. The next one, the third one, shows the 29 Palms facility. And at first I'm like, okay, is that the base? Is that the outline of the base on the top? And then they happen to have a where does it show? United States Alien Research Diagnostic Facility. Then I thought, well, okay, you take that and you overlay it on the image below, showing the highway leading to Barstow, California, and highway north of Marine Base. You see what looks like a topographic map, and there's concertina wire around one area that says main surface entrance. So is that main surface entrance to the image that we see above it with the tunnel system and the United States Alien Research Diagnostic Facility? I don't know. Peniston, aircraft restricted area. I mean, this is a pretty cool map.
On the map, it shows latitude, longitude. It also shows little sections. Kind of reminds me of looking at a map like this of Area 51, because all of the maps have different areas. Well, that's what this reminds me of, except this one, it shows thick black lines that are going through the California cities or underneath. I mean, these are the tunnels that they're talking about and showing us here. So it's a real interesting looking map. Somebody who's really specialized in maps could probably figure out what these numbers mean and everything. But for one, it's just more evidence that's showing us this story is most likely a real story. These maps are actually real, and somebody kept them all these years for whatever purpose. It's just amazing that there's a map like this found in a trailer. It's just unbelievable. We talk about it all the time, of the things that we're going to find, and this is one of those things that helps disclosure. And I'm glad I'm part of it, and you are now too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I wonder, this map only shows the west, but I wouldn't be surprised if it also connects to the underground bases on the east coast. So yeah, I think this is all very credible information. I mean, it really just validates many whistleblowers that have been coming forward the past 20 years.
Catalina, which we know very well. Catalina Islands is where the UAPs were seen, back in 2004 when it rained UFOs, if you guys remember that story. Chocolate Mountains, California, Camp Irwin, I believe, 29 Palms. This is amazing. It shows Groom Complex, S4, and then the line goes all the way. I'm assuming these are the maps of the underground tunnel system. And then another line goes to Dulce. Okay, this is amazing. Colorado SP, I don't know what that means. Creed, Colorado. There's points of origins here that, if this exists, is absolutely enormous. This goes all the way over to Arizona. And Wickiup, Arizona. I know where that is. I live here, Tucson. So these tunnels are bored under the ground, thousands of miles underground. I'm going to make a bet and say the noises we hear, like the trumpets in the sky maybe, we're probably hearing them boring right under their feet, right under our feet. We don't even know it. This is an unbelievable find. I can't believe I'm holding this in my hand, looking at a map of possible secret underground military bases out of this world. Well, under this world.